Well, after 6 rounds and 18 races, the 2017 Radical Challenge Championship screeches to a final here at Snetterton, and what fantastic weather we've got for it too. Now, crucially, this weekend, championship leader Ollie Barker's main rival, Jack Lang, isn't racing, and his absence leaves the door open for a challenge from below.
So perfect conditions then for qualifying to start to form the grid for the final event of the season, and as ever, a very full field of cars taking to the circuit, which meant for our title protagonists that qualifying was all important. Ollie Barker comes into the weekend with a fairly substantial advantage in the championship, and for the driver of the 22 car, staying out of trouble is the name of the game. Nonetheless, an excellent second position gives him every opportunity to challenge for victory. For Dominic Jackson, his task a little bit tougher as he lines up in 5th. Overhauling Barker is going to be a tall order. Overhauling Jack Lang could be on the cards, but Jackson is going to have to make progress around a circuit where it can be challenging to overtake. He gets away from the line well. That's not an issue though for Steve Burgess, putting the car onto pole position for the first race of the weekend. Another new face on the grid is the SR1 champion, Jerome de Sadler, who lines up an excellent 12th on his debut in the SR3. And as the flag came down to end qualifying, Michelle caught up with him.
My first SR1 race was my second race ever, and I had done quite a bit of go-karting and things like that, but yeah, never before SR1.
Okay, so now today you've just qualified with the SR3s. What happened? Why the change?
Yeah, so for winning the SR1, the guys at Radical, which I thank, by the way, told me, come along, we'll gift you a full racing weekend in an SR3, so you get a taster of it. You know, an offer that I couldn't turn down. It's going to be 22 Celsius today. The amazing race cars, beautifully prepped, so thanks to the guys. It's a really a different car, but the amounts of grip, brake, the slick tires, it's really completely different to drive. And qualifying went quite well, so I'm quite happy.
So this is our line-up then, with Steve Burgess and Oliver Barker on the front row of the grid, clear of Richard Baxter and Christian Jeffrey. And Dominic Jackson looking to move from 5th as he shares row 3 with Mark Richards, Jack Manchester and Brian Murphy on row 4, with Elliot Goodman and Brian Caldwell completing a very competitive top 10.
Well, the cars are on the grid for the first of 2 sprint races. Now, while things are looking good for Oliver Barker, he actually finds himself in 2nd position. Meanwhile, main challenger Steve Burgess is on pole, and he certainly won't have given up hope on taking the lead just yet.
Very full field of cars there, ready for the first of 3 races this weekend in the Radical Challenge season-ending weekend here on the Snetterton 300 circuit. Red lights go out and away we go. It's a brilliant getaway from Steve Burgess. Not so well away though for Richard Baxter, and he backs the whole field up behind him as they accelerate towards Richards for the first time. Baxter there, the pink and sky blue car to the inside, 3 wide as Jackson goes around the outside of Jack Manchester. As behind they search for all contact behind, and around goes one of the Caldwells, and there is more contact, a big thump there, and that's the Barwell car, I think, into Brian Caldwell, and they are potentially stranded in the middle of the road. Everybody else on their way, as you can see. Burgess already stretching his legs clear of Oliver Barker. Everybody else sweeping through on towards Agostini. Oh, and there you see, sadly, a couple of very damaged racing cars. The safety car is poised ready to go, but the track is blocked, so the red flag comes out. Such frustration there for Steve Burgess. He made a lightning start and had leapt into a fairly commanding advantage. With the damage cleared and the marshals doing an excellent job, the cars are quickly re-gridded for the restart. And away we go, and that time around a much better start for Oliver Barker. Got another car that's stranded further back. That's Mark Richards, but it's Barker who leads into Richards for the first time. 2nd place Burgess, 3rd is Christian Jeffrey. Another great getaway from Brian Murphy as he slots through in 4th. This time around they all stay out of trouble and head towards the hairpin for the first time. And sprint on towards Palmer that will feed them on towards Agostini. Steve Burgess though immediately right up there with Oliver Barker. Plenty of good squabbles as ever in the midfield. Spencer Bourne looking to make a little bit of progress in the Darknar brake car as Dominic Jackson scythes to the inside of Brian Murphy. He should have made the move stick there. Richard Baxter again shuffled down the field as Jerome de Sadler getting used to the power and grip of the SR3. He's cleanly away and well up in the midfield. This the fight at the front of the field. Now Oliver Barker doesn't have to win this race to claim the championship. A good finish should do that for him, but of course we want to claim the crown with a checker flag as Jack Manchester darts to the inside of Brian Murphy as well. And Manchester, there's some smoke there. I think he's got some bodywork rubbing against a rear tyre as he pounds down the Bentley straight in towards Brundle and Nelson and then towards the bomb hole. So the leading trio trying to stretch away from Dominic Jackson. Steve Burgess doing an excellent job here. He's right in that turbulent air behind Ollie Barker into Coram and then towards the flick at Murray's that will bring them through towards the end of the lap. Barker just consults his mirrors, has a little bit of a look at where Steve Burgess is. They accelerate past the pits and the pit boards along the centre straight. Burgess tucked up right behind Oliver Barker. Through Riches they go, really quick right-hander. They can just use a little bit of a camber and the road just spurts away from them into the hairpin. Constantineering up once more and certainly Ollie Barker not running away with it. At this stage, Burgess was about 500ths quicker than Barker in qualifying, so nothing between them there. They've got Christian Jeffrey behind them, and Jeffrey, who's been successful on occasion this year in the Radical European Masters, had a great weekend at the Hungaroring back in July. And he's there in a very solid third. He's got Dominic Jackson tucked just behind him. And this leading quartet now beginning to ease away from the rest of the field as Brian Murphy and Jack Manchester do battle behind. Into Oggies. And then Williams will feed them out on to the Bentley straight. Snetterton 300 circuit really suited as well to the characteristics of the Radical SR3. So the drivers can use the huge amount of aerodynamic grip and really enjoy the very, very short braking zones. Through Brundle and Nelson. Barker just trying to open up a little bit of daylight over Steve Burgess. He's pulled himself a car length or two. Burgess has got Christian Jeffrey filling his mirrors but not causing any undue threat at this moment. Oh, lovely shot there. The angle of the cars through Coram. You can really get a sense of the aerodynamic forces at play. Amount of buffeting as well the drivers get in the cockpit as Dominic Jackson is steadily homing up onto the tail of Christian Jeffrey. Now, Jackson qualified in 5th. He's made a good start and he's certainly got the pace to run with this leading group of cars for the moment. The challenge being, however, it's one thing to catch the car in front, quite another to find your way past. Also bouncing back well from a difficult start, Richard Baxter. He has got John McLeod as well behind him. Quick glimpse of Jerome de Sadler. And then some super tussles going on throughout the field. And that's the beauty of the Radical Challenge, is that wherever you are on the grid, there's always somebody to have a little bit of a battle with. So they pick their way out of the hairpin. Looks like it's Tom Harvey who is trying to carve his way up, gain a little bit of ground. Return then to the leading quartet as they accelerate towards Hamilton. Ollie Barker beginning now to build a little bit of a buffer over Steve Burgess, so this could be interesting. The really close battle is the one for third because Christian Jeffrey has got Dominic Jackson right with him now. Jeffrey's got to get a good run onto the Bentley straight because the run towards Brundle and Nelson does give a little bit of an opening. Tom Harvey looking to try and carve his way through if he possibly can. It's Mark Crader who's just in front of him, and they're also joined by a couple of other cars as they head on to the Bentley straight. The race leaders already towards the bomb hole. Christian Jeffrey, the way he's withstanding the pressure of Dominic Jackson is now by starting to hustle Steve Burgess. So this could be interesting through Coram. Then we've got the slight gap back to Brian Murphy. He has still got Jack Manchester with him. Fortunately, whatever it was that was rubbing on that tyre for Manchester appears to have been ground away. Jack, another of the drivers in the field who we've seen on occasion in the Radical European Masters this year. And consistent front runner in Supersport class in that championship. Using all of the grip through Riches. Jackson trying to hustle up onto the tail of Christian Jeffrey. Jeffrey, however, not having any of it. Just sticking to the racing line. As soon as he starts to drive defensively, that's when he'll open the door to Dominic Jackson. But if he can just stay behind Steve Burgess, follow what Burgess is doing, much more he can do. Now Burgess would appear to be a little bit closer to Ollie Barker, because last time we saw them, Barker was about 5 car lengths clear. That has come down to only about 1 or 2 car lengths. Meanwhile, challenges further back, John Caldwell coming under a little bit of pressure from Adrian Watt. That's a tussle, I'd imagine it's going to go all the way to the flag. Leading quartet out of Williams on to the Bentley Straight. As we return to the Mark Crader and Tom Harvey tussle. It's Mark Richards who's tucked up just behind them as well in a very similarly liveried car to that of Mark Crader. And these 3 cars have been together now for several laps, as indeed have the leading quartet. Spurt out of the bomb hole on towards Coram Curve. All the while, of course, the race time is steadily ticking away. For Oliver Barker, with an eye towards the championship, the name of the game this weekend is staying out of trouble. Where his title charge starts to come into a little bit of jeopardy is if he has a disagreement with the tyre wall. For Steve Burgess, however, it's all about winning and getting as many points as he can in each and every race. And again, he just has a little bit of a look to the inside of Ollie Barker. Barker, though, rebuffs the pressure. Oh, and the problem, around goes Tom Harvey. Round he goes again. He's going to lose a lot of time and ground. Meanwhile, John McLeod coming under a little bit of pressure as well from Elliot Goodman. Jerome de Sadler looking to try and join that group as well. Some dust being kicked up from various earlier adventures. Towards Agostini. Can still pretty much throw a blanket over the leading quartet. It's a great race. But at the moment, they're all shadow boxing. They're all just waiting until the latter stages to really launch that challenge. As again, Barker just trying to open up a little bit of daylight, if he possibly can, over Steve Burgess. Burgess, though, whenever Barker pulls clear, it only seems to take him a lap or so to reel that gap back in. Likewise, Dominic Jackson, just from the poise of that number 4 car, would appear to maybe have the legs over Christian Jeffrey, but as yet hasn't found a chance to get through. Meanwhile, Brian Murphy is being challenged. It's Barry Liversidge who's just trying to dart to the inside. Meanwhile, Mark Crader and Mark Richards, part of this train as well. As Murphy's just slipped down the order a little bit as the race is unfolded. Crader having a look to the inside, Barry Liversidge. Not a lot of space there for Mark Crader. Crader, like many of the drivers in this field, a graduate of the Radical SR1 Cup. And Mark Richards tried to fight past as well. Crader's to the inside, it leaves half a door open to Richards. And that's well defended from Mark Crader. Had to position the car absolutely perfectly. The race leaders into Richards, still very closely bunched. This time around, oh, it's Jackson who was just dropping back, and he's dropped back further still. A huge lock-up for Dominic Jackson on the way into the hairpin. That means he's going to really lose ground all the way to Agostini, which is the next heavy braking point. And that gap has opened out to about 7 or 8 car lengths. Up into 5th place now has come Jack Manchester. He is being pursued by Richard Baxter. John McLeod continued to have a good tussle with Elliot Goodman. Jerome de Sadler likewise in pursuit of Spencer Bourne. So all these battles that formed in the first couple of laps of the race still running together as we head towards the latter stages. The cars in the field are absolutely prepared and turned out. It's one of the characteristics of the championship. Very high standard presentation of the cars as they go to the grid. Sadler still trying to look for any opportunity to overhaul Spencer Bourne. Sadler Flies right foot to throttle down the Bentley straight. He'll get a little bit of benefit in the toe from Bourne in front of him, but then the braking distances of these cars so short with the aerodynamic grip available, really de Sadler would need to be alongside to challenge through Brundle. Nelson is not quite in a position to do that. Oh, lovely though as he slides the car coming out, just tries to close up. Now here is Steve Burgess, who really has closed up to Ollie Barker, and he's leaving it late now. Barker consults his mirrors. They come out of Murray's onto the centre straight. The pit boards will tell them that there is not long to go at all as they head into the final lap. And Burgess has got a good run here on Barker, who tries to shut the door, but Steve Burgess goes for it into Riches. Brilliant move that from Steve Burgess. Beautifully executed. So they came out of Murray's, he was with him, and Barker just couldn't fight it. Good news for Ollie Barker though is if he stays in second, he's going to claim the championship in about 2.5 miles time. That was a wonderfully executed move from Steve Burgess. That's a slightly less wonderfully executed move from Mark Richards, and he should rejoin. Towards Agostini, still the leading quartet, all bunched up. Dominic Jackson might yet have one more opportunity to try and zip his way through. We'll see whether or not that is the case. Just a couple of corners to run, and Burgess already has pulled out about 3 car lengths or thereabouts, and that means that Ollie Barker is going to have to find something pretty substantial, one would suggest. Meanwhile, Elliot Goodman and John McLeod still running as one. They're being joined by Spencer Vaughan and Jerome de Sadler. De Sadler just kicks up a little bit of dust as they head on to the Bentley straight for the final time. Just 1 corner to go though for our race leader. The battle is now for second. Christian Jeffrey shaken off Dominic Jackson. He's right with Ollie Barker as they head out of Murray's for the final time. The checkered flag is waiting. It's been a really enjoyable race this in the Radical Challenge, and it is going to be victory for Steve Burgess. Second place in the championship to Ollie Barker, with Christian Jeffrey completing the podium after an incredibly hard-fought tussle around the sinuous Snetterton 300 circuit. Let's have a check then at the final result. Burgess wins it from Barker and Christian Jeffrey. Dominic Jackson there throughout in 4th. Jack Manchester finishing in 5th, clear of Richard Baxter. John McLeod did hold off Elliot Goodman and Spencer Bourne, with Jerome de Sadler an excellent 10th on his debut.
Fantastic win, and what a move at the end there.
Yeah, it was a do or die on the last lap. I thought, well, you know, I knew Ollie had to think about the championship and might be a bit more conservative, so yeah, I just went for it.
And you're obviously happy with the result there.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, you know, I made hard work of it off the start. I bogged the start, and I think I had the pace on Ollie, but just trying to get past him around here is quite difficult with the downforce loss when you go close behind the car in front. But no, we did it, which is the main thing.
Ollie, so a bit of a move from Steve at the end there.
Yeah, it was a good move by Steve. We both got a good start. I managed to just get ahead of him at the start of the race, and I managed to pull away for a bit. And then he just sort of caught up to me, and obviously I had the championship to consider. And I saw him coming up the inside of me, and I just thought, you know, let's not try too hard to keep him behind. So really pleased to pick up the overall championship today. It was only my second year racing, graduated from the SR1 Cup last year where I came second, so to win the SR3 challenge this year is just fantastic really. I just want to say a big thanks to the team, Nielsen Racing. They've done a great job of preparing the car, and I just also want to say a big thanks to all my friends and family that have come along. I've had lots of support all season, and so I'm over them and really pleased to have got the championship.
3rd position in the podium for the first race, Christian.
It was really good, man. After bouncing back from the crash in Brands Hatch, we got a new chassis for this weekend, and the guys did a really good job of putting it together, and we have the pace to be top 3, which is good.
So, Jerome, race 1 done. How did that go for you?
It went really well, so I wanted a top 10. I got my top 10. So I finished 10th. It's better than nothing. The first start, there were quite a few incidents, so we had to restart the race. I had all the pressure of starting again, and it's a little bit different to get off the line than the SR1, so I'm not that quick off the start yet. But great, I was on pace, 10th place, I was keeping up with 3 other guys, so it was fun.
Okay, so have you got any strategies for the second of the sprint races yet?
Yeah, so I really need to focus on my start because I lost a couple spots there. We're going to change the setup on my car to something that is going to help me I felt better yesterday, so we're going to change that back, and that's the strategy. Continue pushing.
Well, let's see how he gets on in the next programme, and also Hull finished second in the championship. Join us then as the Radical Challenge continues.